Let's continue.
As I can with my hand. But let's just assume these are 5 equal sections. So what would happen, what would you think would be a good label for this number right over here?
What do you think would be a good label for that? For this point right there on the number line, what do you think would be a good label for it, for this point right here that he is showing? What would be a good label for that? Well, to figure it out, you look at the spaces in between 0 and 1. You think about this space in between 0 and 1 like a rectangle. How many pieces are there in between 0 and 1? And my drawing is not perfect, believe me. Let me get rid of this extra because we went past 1. What would be a good label for that? Yeah, you're right. 1/5, because just like the rectangle, that would be 1/5 shaded. So of course, the best label for it right there would be 1/5. Perfect. All right.
Well, it's the exact same idea. Between 0 and 1, I've traveled 1 out of the 5 equal sections towards 1. And actually, let me make it a little bit neater than that. Make the equal sections look a little bit better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we're thinking about is this. What should we call this number here? This number is clearly between 0 and 1. It's clearly closer to 0. And we've gone 1 out of the 5 equal sections towards 1. Well, it makes complete sense that, well, look, we had 5 equal sections here. 5 equal sections here. We've traveled 1 of them towards 1. So we should call this number right over here 1/5. So when we're talking about a fraction, 1/5, it's not just talking about, hey, what part of a pizza pie have I eaten or something like that. This is actually a number. This is a number, and we can actually plot it on the number line.
All right. So as you can see, we're not just talking about shapes anymore. We're talking about fractions on a number line. And that fraction actually has its own spot because it is a type of number. In this case, it is less than 1. So here's 1/2. It is less than 1, and it is closer to 0, but it is its own number or its own part, okay?
Now you might say, okay, well, that's fair about 1/5, but what about all these other slashes? What numbers would we call that?
What would these other ones be? What would this one be? Perfect. If this is 1/5 on a shape, then this is 2/5. And you put the mark at the end of the shape. So the shape would be ending right here. So our label would go here for 2/5, and then perfect, 3/5, and then 4/5. And what about this last one? What is this? If the whole thing was shaded in, if all of it was shaded in, what would it be then? This is me shading, by the way. What would it be? Perfect. It would be 5/5. And normally you write these underneath the number line because 5/5 equals 1/2, but I can't write them underneath the number line because I don't have enough space.
Well, we can make it's the exact same idea. If up here, instead of shading in 1 out of the 5 equal sections, if I shaded in 2 of the 5 equal sections, then I wouldn't say this is 1/5 anymore. I would say that this is 2/5. And so if I go 2 of the equal sections towards 1, then I should call this number right over here, I should call this 2/5. And I could keep going. This right over here should be 3/5. This right over here, I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 5 sections towards 1. So I could call this 4/5, 4/5. And I could keep going. I could call this right over here. I've traveled 5 out of the 5 equal sections towards 5. So I could call this right over here 5. Let me do that red color. I could call this right over here 5/5. You might say,